Yo, how do I turn this thing on? Oh. SZA. Normani. Chloe. Long ago, the three pop R&B girls lived in harmony, recording their albums. Then everything changed when their labels refused to release their albums. Only a music stan, connoisseur of pop culture, could stop them. But when the world needed her most, she vanished. 100 years passed, and the YouTube algorithm discovered a new pop culture connoisseur named Quartz Jones. And although she's not a pop culture encyclopedia just yet, she has a lot to learn before she's ready to save anyone. But I believe Quartz can save the world. Where is the album? Who knew that 4 simple words could echo what pain felt universally in the hearts and minds of music fans around the world? Anticipation for an album can quickly turn into frustration. When an artist says their album is done, or worse, they give a time frame for when the album is going to be done, and then that time passes with no updates. This could be because an artist is going through things in their personal life, they need a mental health break, they need more time to tweak certain things on the album. But what happens when it's not an artist or their personal life that's causing delays? It's the label. In a recent example, SZA had said in May of this year during the Met Gala red carpet that we would be having a, and I quote, SZA summer.
SZA summer, it's gonna be a SZA.
Now, judging by the fact that I can now buy Halloween candy and Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You is defrosting, I'm gonna go ahead and say that summer's over. Then SZA revealed in July that although she wanted to release her album in the summer, RCA and Top Dog Entertainment, who she is signed to, had said that they needed more time. SZA specifically called out Punch, who is the president of TDE. This is one of the things Punch tweeted in response to the incident, which I will now call SZA Gate. I'm curious, as a fan of an artist, what do you feel you are owed besides music when it's presented? Then this August, it's giving timelines. This video is really giving timelines. Then in August, Punch did an interview with Vulture, and he said this in relation to the tweet. It's a disconnect sometimes with certain fans, not all fans. It's a sense of entitlement that comes with it. The artist's relationship with fans sometimes gets skewed a bit to where certain people feel that they're owed. I posed a question the other day on Twitter. I asked, what do you feel artists owe you? One person responded, friendship. Once the artist creates the work and you buy the work, that's what you're owed. Obviously, artists don't owe their fans anything, especially anything that they don't want to give. But if I'm told that anything I'm excited about, an album, a movie, a video game, a package in the mail, is going to be on my doorstep or in my hands at a certain date, then I'm going to be disappointed if it gets pushed back. Okay? That's a natural human emotion. That's why I pay over $100. That's why I pay over $100 for Amazon Prime every year. I want my things in 2 days or less. Before social media, we would only hear from artists if they occasionally did interviews. Now artists are tweeting clips. Here's my glasses. Maybe I can't see. Now artists are tweeting clips of songs that aren't released yet. Pictures of them in the studio, in the stewed, as I'm sure they call it. That's industry jargon for you girls who don't know any better. Anyways, as I was saying, tweeting pictures of them in the stewed with the hottest producers, giving updates on how finished the album is, etc., etc. So it's no wonder that people feel that they should be getting updates on when the album's gonna come out. Now, Punch also had this to say in the Vulture interview. You definitely have to take a lot of hits because people don't understand the inner workings of the music business. They feel you could just record a song and put it out and that's that, but it is so many different details that go along with it that the general public don't get. And then the interviewer asked, is there a specific frustrating audience misconception about the work that you do? Punch responds, it's not really frustrating like that, but the common misconception is that we hold albums back. And it's weird because why would we hold an album back? We can't make money if we hold an album back. That doesn't really register with certain people when they want something so bad, which I get it too. I personally, since you're here, might as well give you my opinion. I do think that it's a twofold issue. Part of the issue lies with the artist and part of the issue lies with the fans. For artists, I think as a general rule, just don't say when the album's coming out. No, I know they be asking, interviews be asking, just play like Rihanna and say soon. If Rihanna can say soon over and over again for years, so can you. Because it's very clear that when you're signed to a label, you don't have complete control over your album release date. In Chloe's case, she confirmed this spring that her album is done, but it's out of her hands as to when her label will release it.
I don't have a date.
Okay.
Yeah, gotta ask my label.
Yeah, I just think that's a better approach. Like I was saying with the Amazon example. If Amazon says my package is going to be here in 2 days, don't let it be 3. Don't you dare let it be 4 days. A week? Are we living in 2005? I want my things in 2 days. Alexa, call Jeff Bezos. Plus, it's a good way to put the responsibility on your label without calling out your label. You know what I mean? Saying something like, oh, the album is pretty much done, but it's out of my hands as to when exactly my label will choose to release it, but I'm so excited for my fans to hear it. Sounds a lot better than giving me a time frame for when the album is going to be released, and then when the album doesn't come out, then you're saying, well, it's my label's fault, or y'all gonna have to ask that man who at my label why the album's not out, because I don't know. Because the interaction between Punch and SZA online during SZA Gate. I'm really trying to make SZA happen. I'm really trying to make that a thing. Anyways, the interaction between Punch and SZA online, it was giving irritation. It was giving annoyed. And you know what? Even if they weren't annoyed with each other, because you know, it is Twitter, all right? It's easy to misconstrue what emotions are behind tweets because it's just words. No, we don't see people's faces. We don't hear their voices. It still caused drama on the TL. And it made RCA and TDE look bad. And SZA knew it was gonna make them look bad. She knew. Okay, so that's part one of the issue. Artists, either don't give me a time frame for when you think the album's gonna be out, or if you give me a time frame, clarify that ultimately it's up to your label, it's no guarantee, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, great. Glad we got that settled. Because from a public relations perspective, it just makes y'all look bad. Like, even though some of us, some people, some fans, girl, we don't care, we're gonna stream it as soon as you drop it, whether that's this year, next year, or the year after that. And some fans maybe have more of an understanding of how the music industry is, so we're like, okay, things happen, it's fine, but other people are not like that. Other people are mad, and it makes y'all look bad. Yeah, it's a SZA summer, maybe. You know, hopefully my label is down to make it a SZA summer. Boom. The girls already know. We know who to tweet when it doesn't come out, when you said. Okay, moving on. Second part of the issue, of course, goes back to the fans and the fans being in a parasocial relationship with celebrities. We think we know them. We think we have the whole story. Because I do agree with Punch when he says that some fans feel entitled. Especially because of social media, the distance between the common man and celebrities feels a lot shorter than it used to. I have access to my faves. My faves technically have access to me. Not that they would want access to me, but it's fine because it's a parasocial relationship. It's not real. Now, with a celebrity like Normani, who out of the 3 women I've mentioned so far seems to be the most private, we don't really know what's going on with her. We don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. So it's a lot of speculation as to why her album is not out. It's easy to create narratives about a person, especially when they don't necessarily take control of the narrative themselves. Okay, and that reason could be for legal reasons, for professional reasons. I don't know. It's a mystery. In any case, for me as a fan, it's important to practice empathy and to try to see a situation from all sides. Because Normani in the past has given time frames for when she expected the album to be out, so I'm inclined to think that it's forces beyond her control that are causing delays, but again, I don't know. It's a mystery. Ultimately, music is a business and the label wants to maximize their return on investment. And so many factors can go into why labels choose certain album release dates. So I did some research on those factors. Let's get into those. BuzzFeed published an article in 2013 titled, "What It's Like When a Label Won't Release Your Album," where they talk about what happens when an artist is ready to drop an album, but they are unable to. Many of the examples focus on artists who are in bad contracts. Artists like JoJo, who famously was unable to release music for several years. Artists like Sky Ferreira, Lupe Fiasco, etc., etc. Okay, first of all, more delay can equal more demand. The article talks about how sometimes labels will push back an album release date in order to create more demand from the fans. Anticipation builds, the girls get hungrier and hungrier. Just when they're about to pass out from starvation, you serve that album to them on a silver platter. Sometimes there's a battle between the label execs and the artist over who has creative control. So there have been cases where an artist will turn in multiple versions of the same album because every iteration they turn in gets rejected by the label. This naturally stifles the artist's creative vision, or perhaps a label has a certain vision for a certain artist and that vision is not aligning with the artist's vision for themselves and it clashes. I'm now going to play a clip from an interview Tinashe did with Lena Dunham where she talks about this exact situation.
I was so excited to go to Toronto, even though it was the middle of a record cold winter. It was my first time, and I'd be working with one of my favorite producers and some of my favorite local songwriters. We hung out for a while, listened to some beats to catch a vibe, and before too long, we were feeling inspired and started working on something brand new. When the song started going in a direction theme-wise that I wasn't particularly fond of, I said, hey, maybe we can try something from a different perspective. My notes seemed to be brushed off. Everyone else felt that the concept was genius. I wanted to be respectful, and so I thought, okay, maybe we can work on this idea for a while, and then we can create something that is more in my wheelhouse later. My A&R for my record label was there, and I, as a new artist with no hit to my name, felt an unspoken pressure to allow everyone else in the room to take the lead. The night dragged on, with the song feeling more and more like something I would never say. I remember pulling my label rep aside and trying to describe how I felt. I did not want to record this song. I didn't mean to be difficult or to waste anyone's time, but I couldn't, as an artist, get behind these lyrics. That was when he turned to me and said, well, then we can just go home. At this point, I burst into tears. I felt completely defeated. I knew he saw me in that moment as ungrateful or stubborn, when going home was actually the opposite of what I wanted. I brushed off the tears and reluctantly recorded the song that I hated. I tried very hard from that point forward to never allow myself to get in that position again, but it happened to me again on several occasions.
Tinashe, this is the same Tinashe who was in a contract with RCA. They weren't really doing her justice. Tinashe has since dipped. She chucked up the deuces to RCA, and the albums she's released since then have been delish. Scrumptious, if I do say so myself. Another reason why an album might not come out when it was expected to, the label's priorities are elsewhere. So for example, if a bigger artist on your label wants to put out an album the same time as you, well, sweetie, you better wait your turn. Sit down in the waiting room. We're gonna take care of our VIP patient. Do you like this doctor metaphor I'm using? Probably not, it's weird. Okay, moving on. Singer Sky Ferreira found herself continually stalled by her label focusing on other female acts. They told me the nastiest things like, sorry, there's already one girl coming out at the moment, we can't do two, Ferreira told the Phoenix last November. Saying that's harsh is an understatement. Another factor that goes into album release schedules, Grammy nomination deadlines. October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022 is the eligibility period for the next Grammy Awards. This year on the Grammy board, we have Beyonce. We've got Silk Sonic. We've got Adele. We've got the three horsemen of the Grammy apocalypse. It's not looking good for the other girls. I don't know if you were trying to win Album of the Year. It's basically going to one of those three people. So a label exec might say, hey, let's wait till after September 30th, 2022, because I'm not trying to compete with those three acts. But then you remember that there's supposed to be an act 2 and an act 3 of a Renaissance. So it's not looking good. If you were like trying to win Album of the Year, okay, or you were trying to be in like the pop category, but you know what? They might put her in the R&B Category child, you know how they be doing. You know how they be doing us. We'll see what happens. Now, I wanna dive a little deeper. I'm about to dive in. No, I wanna dive a little deeper into garbage contracts. Yeah, because it's very common. It gets brought up constantly in the news, right? We just had the Khalees Pharrell conversation. Megan Thee Stallion is currently going through it with her label legally. Okay, not too long ago, we were up in arms about Tinashe being locked up with RCA. So let's really get into the legal shackles placed on some of our faves. Now, this quote from the BuzzFeed article is about JoJo specifically. Many artists who sign contracts as minors, like JoJo, have their parents act as their managers, and the parents usually don't have much experience with the music industry. My mom read this book called All You Need to Know About the Music Business, and she thought she had it down pat, JoJo tells BuzzFeed. She raised me off very little, and she cleaned houses for a living and sang as a church soloist in our church in Foxborough, Massachusetts, and she trusted the system. So it's very easy for labels to take advantage of artists who don't have lawyers or are young and inexperienced when it comes to the music business. The article also goes into tactics that artists can use to try to get out of label contracts. Oftentimes they try to get out of it privately, and if that doesn't work, then they try to get out of it publicly. Prince is a very, very famous example of this. Now, Prince signed to his label Warner Brothers in the 70s when he was 18 years old, but in the late 80s and the early 90s, that's when he started to kind of fight back against the control that his label had on him. Now, apparently Warner was the most artist-friendly label at the time, but there was a couple things Prince did not like about his situation. First of all, he didn't like that he didn't own his masters. And he also didn't like that he couldn't release multiple albums a year. Now, you know, in the label's defense, it's like, hey, you kind of want to let an album breathe. You kind of want to squeeze out all the marketing and attention you can get out of it before you move on to the next thing. Okay, well, Prince didn't care about all that. He's a creative. When the artistic vision strikes, it's time to release an album in his mind, okay? And third, he also wanted a deal that was as grand as the deals his competition was getting. And by his competition, I'm talking Madonna, I'm talking Michael Jackson, I'm talking Janet Jackson. In 1992, Prince and Warner signed a new 6-album contract where he could release a maximum of 1 album per year. He would get a $10 million advance on each album, etc., etc. However, Prince, like I said, he wanted to release albums when he wanted to release albums. He didn't want to release just 1 a year if that's not what he creatively wanted to do. So in 1993, he thought he could get out of his contract by going by a different name. Okay, so this is when he started using this symbol right here, and he started going by the artist formerly known as Prince and all that, girl. He tried. Baby girl, if I could legally change my name to get out of paying back these student loans, Mr. Biden, it's so funny that you think I'm gonna pay him back. So I'm not. Cancel them. Okay, then in the mid-90s, he started to appear publicly with the word slave written on his face as a way to show that he was a slave to his label. Yeah, the label didn't like that. They didn't like that. There's a lot of racial implications there. Not a good look for them, Warner. Yeah. Ultimately, Prince ended up fulfilling his contract by 1996 by quickly releasing several albums in a short amount of time. One of the things that Prince is known for in terms of his legacy is bringing awareness to how unfair and restrictive label contracts could be.
Well, it's not your game. You didn't make the rules, so everything comes hard. And as long as you're signed to a contract, you're going to take a minority share of the winnings. A select few of us will do well, the majority will not. So as a people, we'll be considered a minority. But stop. Let's take a moment and look at yourselves. There's nothing minor about you. You are a blessed people. You're the most talented on earth, and you are still grateful. That is why upon winning in their game, you always thank God. Tonight I would like to ask one favor of you. Imagine what we'll all be like in our own game.
This quote from a Billboard article pretty much sums things up. He drew attention to the issue of artists controlling their own destiny, says Gary Stuffelman, Prince's attorney from 1988 to 1994, and he furthered the message as much or more than anyone. Prince tried to get other acts to rally around him in the fight for contract reform, but failed. He was forever trying to persuade other artists to do the same, says Stuffelman. This was truly a cause, not just I want to make more money. Ultimately, the only people we can control is ourselves. So as a fan, we really got to manage our expectations. An artist can provide us with a potential timeline or time frame of when their album is going to be released, but unfortunately, as long as they're in a contract with a label, they don't have complete control over whether or not the album is actually going to come out when they say it's going to come out. An artist can have a fantastic relationship with their label today, but if tomorrow the label decides that they need someone who can compete with, for example, Doja Cat and her sound, they're gonna throw all their resources behind that person instead, and you can go ahead and sit in the waiting room, girl. You getting benched. I don't know much about sports, but you don't want to get benched. Alien superstar. Whip, whip. I'm too classy for this world. Forever I'm that girl. Oh, baby, I'm dark brown, dark skin, beige, fluorescent beige. Where is the album? Where is the album? Where is the album?